Okay, this is another video about a sort of principle I've had, and this one's called the Camping Club Principle, which is from a sort of UK TV show called The Inbetweeners, which is basically like kind of I guess it's sort of the British version of like Superbad or whatever it's called. It's like basically a bunch of kids, about a bunch of teenagers in sixth form, which is just like school, basically in like the older bit of school if you're American, and they're trying to get laid and stuff, and then one of the sort of mates in the group who's called Jay says who's just a sort of notorious liar in throughout the 3 seasons and 2 films. He says he's always going on about how when he goes off camping with his family and stays at a camping club that he has sex with lots of girls. And this is kind of joke because all the characters know that he really doesn't, and the audience obviously knows that he doesn't. But it's terribly funny. I mean, go and watch it if you haven't. But anyway. There's one episode where they actually go to the camping club. I think it's season 2, and the whole joke is basically none of them get laid, and it's really shit. Which is exactly what everyone suspects in the first place. But I suppose the genius is somehow both the audience and the characters are still disappointed. But anyway, not to bask in the glory of that programme too much. I think I observe this kind of thing myself in a lot of areas of my life, because I grew up in I spent my teenage years in a village quite far away. I mean, it was driving distance to the nearest town, but it was always sort of socially you were very sort of disconnected, and school I was sort of I wasn't massively popular. I was quite sort of unusual. I didn't really fit in, and this made me sort of not very sort of attractive mate in the sort of dating scene. But and I didn't really fit in generally, and I always remember thinking like, when I go to uni, this will all be different. In uni, I'll find my people. I'll just be around more girls, so I'll just, it won't matter. I'll get more dating opportunities, and all my problems will just disappear. And I'm not saying it's complete delusion, that, but I certainly surprised me over 2.5 years, I guess, now that I've been at university. How little my life has really changed by the change in circumstance, like living in a big city like Manchester. And yeah, I probably fit, I've definitely, found my people, as it were. I probably fit in better than I did at school. And, I've developed my dating life in a way that I hadn't at school. I've been with a lot more girls, been on more dates, than I'm sure I would have if I'd sort of hypothetically stayed in the same scenario. If you see what I mean. But I think the thing that's really created the most change has not been but by an immeasurable amount, has been my own personal change. So, just to bring that back to the sort of thing I was talking about originally, in this analogy, university is, I guess, kind of like the camping club where, you know, all my problems will be sorted, you know, or if only I just need to get to there and then everything will be as I want. There's nothing wrong with me, it's just the external circumstances. That's the kind of analogy there. But no, I really think it's been my personal development that has managed the most change. And you know, it's funny. I always you're always willing to be blind to things that disprove your sort of the view that makes you feel comfortable. You know, because there were plenty of people who lived in my village who were, you know, getting girls, and you know, having a really sort of interesting social life that I kind of wanted. And I remember feeling very well, you know, it never really occurred to me that, you know, they're in the exact same situation as me, but they're getting a different result. And that's because they were different people who better sort of met the criteria to gain those things. And I often wonder, because I mean, I've really changed how I look, just generally since, I guess since the start of uni. You know, I wear nicer clothes that are clean. You know, I shave my head. I mean, I don't think it looks incredible. I've got quite a big widow's crescent, but it's it's presentable. You know, I shave. I really dedicated myself to physical fitness, so my body looks better and also I look healthier. And I wonder if I'd done all the kind of things I do now, back in the day when I was at school, when I was having all these desires to, you know, improve my dating life and you know, have a better social circle. I think it would have worked wonders, to be honest. I really do. I mean, you know, you never know for sure, and I'm not saying there isn't some kind of role that circumstances play, but you know, I kind of thought, you know, I moved to Manchester for uni. It was fun for like a term. I felt like my life was sort of different, but you know, as soon as the dust settled, you're kind of back in the same sort of place, you know. You're just running from the same kind of thing, and then you get in a really bad position because then you say, "Oh no, we'll just have to wait up for the next stage." You know, well, I start working a job. That's when I'll fit in. That's when I'll, you know, I'll fit in. That's when I'll find a nice girl. You know, when I get a bit older, and then you do that, and then it's like, you know, I mean, how long does that delusion go on for? Until you know, and then you end up your life really miserable, and it's really sad. So yeah, I mean, it's amazing. I mean, I ran into some people at my local gym, who I knew in first year, and like they were just gobsmacked by how different I was, because I always think I was a bit of a kind of you know, like, because we all lived in the same block at university, and I was sort of kind of you know, we'd hang out occasionally and like have a party in one of our flats or whatever. But I was always slightly a sort of outlier in that. I was slightly a tag along. But no, I just talked to them in the gym. Well, it was only one of the guys really who it was the first time seeing me, but since first year. But it was just very, like, the way he talked to me was just so different. Really weird, really weird. And yeah, I think that will continue. I mean, and last week I went to a lecture, And I hadn't been in since the start of term, so I'd missed a week or whatever. So, and I hadn't had this specific lecturer since last year. When I had longer hair, I hadn't really shaved the beard, all that kind of stuff. And I walked in, I was a bit late actually, and I kind of sat down and he carried on for a few minutes, and then he was like, "Oh, sorry, what was your name?" I was like, "Oh, it's Alfie," and I was a bit offended because I actually knew this professor quite well, one of the few professors that I sort of knew quite well, and he was like, "Ah, that's where I recognise you," and it was like, "Wow, you look completely different." It was just really interesting to have this, and I don't know. I mean, I'm interested to see how things develop more, because I think I've still got a really long way to go, but all that change really came from within. It wasn't. It turns out it wasn't about moving to a different place or changing circumstance. So if you're in a bad circumstance, maybe you're in the scenario I've described, or something similar, and you want to sort of you want things to change for yourself. I mean, the most practical thing to do is to change yourself, not only because that it's just easy to do. Anyone can fucking shave their heads, and do a bit of exercise. I mean, maybe you've got a difficult job or whatever, so you don't have time, but you probably do. Let's face it. If you're watching me on YouTube, and you should always make time to exercise. But anyway, but not only is it more practical, but it's than moving somewhere else or whatever. Not saying that you shouldn't do that as well, but it's just easier to do as well, and the effects you get is likely greater. So yeah, and I mean this feeds into what I've say about musicians as well. I mean I'll link a video in the description about my advice to amateur musicians who want to make it big, and my thing there is really just outcompete everyone. Don't, because what a lot of people go for is they go for the Instagram promo. They get songs on Spotify. They get advertising for gigs, TikTok. What does the lead singer have for a meal deal? All this kind of bullshit on TikTok, and that's fun to do, sure, but it's not going to get you anywhere with music. The actual promotion of the music. All you need to do if you want to get big in music is just sit in your room for 5 hours a day, listening to music, recording music, writing lyrics, learning editing software, whatever it is. That's that, and everything else will just fall into place. There'll come a point where maybe you'll need to start doing a few open mics and stuff, but really, I think things will gravitate towards you, because so few women, there's such little real talent out there. I mean, the example I use in the video, I think, was Aretha Franklin. Was just, I mean, she just came from the middle of nowhere. It was just some town in sort of, on the Mississippi River, some little village. So far removed from anything. But she just absolutely blew up. And I don't really know the story. Maybe there's other things surrounding it, but the story I understand, and this really tells true to what I observe in the music scene here, is it's just the talent that she has. I mean, this is the beauty of the rule, because it just goes for absolutely anything. I mean, I'm just listing examples off the top of my head. But dating as well, people are like, oh, I need to get Tinder gold so I can get some more matches on and go on a few dates. You know, no, you don't. It's like, you don't need to use any dating software to, you know, any sort of dating apps as a starting point. Anyway, all you need to do is just look at yourself in the mirror, and give yourself an honest rating out of 10, and look at what's to improve. You know, and the easiest one to prove is either what you wear or your clothes, but you know, you get that to a high enough level, and it's tough to get to that level, but you get that to a high enough level, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you know, girls just will just gravitate towards you, because it's so rare that you're suddenly such a rare commodity, you know. And you know, fair enough, if you want to get a rotation of girls to sleep with on a regular basis, you know, if that's the kind of life you want to live, then, and you know, you don't want to waste any time dating, fair enough, maybe get Tinder on top of that, but otherwise you're really wasting your time. So yeah, real change comes from within is the message.